Okay, so now we're ready to start talking about arrays, and an array is a way to store a bunch of items in memory, like all stuck together in a similar area in memory. And I'm going to use a rainbow in this example, just like the colors of the rainbow, which are related, and we're going to store them all together in memory. So before we look at an array, we could easily do this with 7 simple variables, the types of variables we've been using all along in this class. I could create separate strings, one for each color, color 1, color 2, and so on, and then put the colors into those variables. That would work, but a better way, because we have this related data, is to store them all together in memory as an array. So here I have an array declaration. And it's like a simple variable declaration with we have the data type. You choose a good name for your array. But here, this is new for us. We have square brackets, and then in the square brackets, we put the size of the array. In this case, I want 7 elements, we call them. Each location in the array, or each slot in the array, so to speak, is an element. And so I've chosen 7 elements for my 7 colors of the rainbow. And what ultimately, now I have not populated the array yet in this code, but I'm going to do that in the sample program. Ultimately, this is what I'm aiming for. In memory, I'm going to have a structure like this, which has 7 elements, okay, set aside, and then I'm going to populate it with the strings, the colors that belong in those elements. And just a quick look here, and we'll look at this through the code. Arrays are numbered behind the scenes because all of these elements are going to ultimately go by the name rainbow, but you have to differentiate between them. And so we use their indexes or their subscripts. Your book uses the term subscripts. I like the word index. I'll try to mix it up and use them both, but we have a zero-based numbering behind the scenes. So each element is numbered, but the numbers start at 0, and that's hard to get used to because typically, like intuitively, we start counting at 1, but now you have to start kind of retraining your mind to start counting at 0. All right, so we'll look at the code behind the scenes here, and here I've created the array of type string, again 7 elements here, and now I'm going to populate the array with the colors. And again, I said you have to be mindful of the indexes because all of the elements go by the name rainbow. But so in order to differentiate, hey, I want to put red in the first element, I have to provide a subscript of 0. To put orange in the second element, I have to provide a subscript of 1, and so on. So you just go down the line and you populate your array. And then, so arrays are variables. You want to put data in order to eventually get the data back out for some purpose. So let's say I want to print the colors of the rainbow at the console. Okay, I think you know what I'm in Visual Studio 2017 here, so I better add that. So what if I want to print the colors at the console? You might be tempted to do this, and I'm going to run this so you can see the result. Here I go. Okay, so you can see what I got here. Not exactly the colors I was hoping to see. We have a hexadecimal number, which actually reflects the address of the array in memory. That's where the array starts in memory. So you can't just reference the name of the array. When you reference the name of the array, you're actually just pointing to that memory location. So if I want to actually see the contents in the array, there's a specific technique that we have to do. We have to loop through the array. I have some code here I'm going to paste in. Okay, so we're going to loop through the array. Let's just take a look at the loop. I've set up my for loop. You can do this with a while loop or a do loop, but I'll just start with the for loop for this example. Okay, so I have an integer counter variable, which I have called index. That's the name I chose for this example. And I'm going to keep going. Notice I'm starting my index at 0. That's key here because the values of index, your loop counter, as this loop is running, have got to match the indexes of the array, which in this case are 0 through 6. So I'm going to start counting at 0, and I'm going to keep counting while index is less than 7. Okay, so that gets me my range of 0 through 6, which I need. And there's my increment there. So that's the loop header set up to coincide perfectly with the indexes or subscripts of the array, 0 through 6 in this case. And then when I'm doing my cout to print the color, notice how I do not have a hard-coded value here. I have the value of the loop counter. This is a very important technique, and I want you to get very, very comfortable with it. So loop counter as array index while looping, in order to loop through the array and get each element one at a time and move through the array and print the contents. So there it is. And we'll look at many more examples of this, but that's your first one. I'll go ahead and run it. We'll look at the results. Okay, and there are my colors. That garbage is left over from the previous discussion of the address, but there are the colors in a list format.